Hello and welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sheena White.
And I'm your other host, Jerry Garcia.
Okay, and today we are going to talk about everything you have to do before the end of the year.
Yes, we are coming up on the end of 2024. We want to talk about some kind of general things, but also some very specific things to this year that you're going to want to take care of to make sure that you're heading into 2025 best foot forward.
Yeah. So the first thing is something that some of you may have heard of and some of you may have not. And if you haven't, then please keep listening because it's super duper duper important. Specifically to this year, it is your financial crimes beneficial ownership information filing. Now you're like, if you've heard of this, it's the BOI. It's kind of a hot topic for a good reason. If you haven't, then look up BOI. But basically, the government wants to know who benefits from, financially from ownership in your company. So if you own and operate an LLC, so you either have to have an EIN number or a filing with your Secretary of State in whatever state you're in. So if you have either one of those two, so if you're like, I'm filed with the Secretary of State, but I use my Social Security number, that counts. If you have an EIN number through the IRS, but you don't have a filing through the Secretary of State, first, you should get one. And second, you still have to do the BOI filing. The reason it's a big deal is because as of January 1, if you haven't done this, you can face up to $595 a day fines.
All right.
That's insane, right?
It's a little crazy. I mean, FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, has decided that they want this information from every single business that operates in the country. And so deadline's coming up. This is very important. It's not something you've ever had to do before, but it's also not something you want to blow off because the backlash will be there eventually. Yeah.
And also, it's not something you need to hire anybody to help you do. It's super duper easy. So I had a lot of clients coming and asking me, and of course I had to do it for myself. So I was like, okay, hey, now's a good time to just do it for myself, see what it's like. It took me literally less than 10 minutes. The only thing that's kind of complicated is finding the correct website to go to actually do it yourself. So it's just like if you Google an EIN number, it tries to take you to all these people trying to charge you money. If you Google BOI, it's the same thing. But go to FinCEN themselves and go to their FAQs, and it will then show you the website you have to go to for the filing. Or if you just go to Your Pocket CFO on Facebook, you'll find I have a little blurb about how to do it, and the website's right there. But then once you go in, it does not take very long to do it, and it's honestly simpler if you just do it yourself because of the way that they have it set up. If you hire a company to help you, they will ask you for the exact same information, and it'll actually take you longer to give it to them for them to then file it on your behalf than if you just did it yourself. And I know this to be true because I had a client hire a company and then they were asking me for all this help. And I'm like, this is more complicated. Like, let's tell them no thank you and let's just do it ourselves.
It's one of those things where I think they're trying to justify their cost, right?
Yeah.
You see this a lot in the mortgage space. We would get, after you close on your loan and everything, somebody offers to mail you. You'll get something in the mail that says, hey, if you want a copy of your title work, your closing docs, whatever, we can get those for you for, $250, when realistically it's all available in public record. You could contact the title company if you needed it for any reason, and they can get that documentation to you.
Or you can just look it up online most of the time.
That's what I'm saying. It's available publicly. It's just, these companies, they're not doing anything wrong necessarily, but they're thriving on people not understanding what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like they're profiting on ignorance.
That's exactly what it is. And so, yes, you can pay someone to do this for you. They're going to have to ask you all the same questions that you would have to answer if you did it yourself.
And they're going to have to get all the same documentation. And then you have to rely on them to have done it correctly. And the crazy thing is that if they did it wrong, you're still liable. So yeah, just do it yourself. It will literally take you 10 to 15 minutes. You need your driver's license. I know that's weird, but it is the rule. And so just get ready, do it. And you have to do it for every single EIN or Secretary of State designation you have. So if you have multiple companies or multiple entities, you have to do it for every single one. And if one of them is a parent company, then you should get what's called a FinCEN ID and then use that as the beneficial owner for all your other subsidiary companies. So that way it's a flow up and it's done properly. And if you have any questions, again, you can always reach out to me. I've done a lot of research on this topic and I will help you and not charge you because I'm not about that.
Thinking now of all the different companies that I've filed because they're super cheap and, you have an idea, you think I'm going to start this company and we file this LLC real quick, and now I have to go back and track all the ones that I've done. And
well, that's easy too. Okay, so especially here in Colorado, if you're like, I don't even know how many I have through the Secretary of State, you can, if you are the registered agent on those companies, you can actually do a search through the Secretary of State using the registered agent name. So you can look up your own name and you can see all of them. And if you have some that you aren't ever going to use again, then just file the document to close them down so that you don't have to deal with this anymore. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. And so the BOI is new, but it is not going away. And it's also something, if you start a new company, you have to do it within 90 days of that company starting. And this actually was in place this entire year. So I know a lot of people are out of compliance right now. So for real, if you started a new company this year, like go do this today. Do not wait. Just do it. Because, you can only claim ignorance for so long if they try to come after you. And so think about in the future, we have Secretary of State designation, EIN, and now it's going to be BOI. Every single time you'll need those 3 filings in order to legally start a company.
All right. Well, is this something that's going to have to be done every year, or you just do it the one time and it's registered and now you're good?
To my knowledge, you only have to do it once unless something changes within the beneficial ownership.
Okay.
So like, for instance, if you get an investor that owns a certain amount, you will have to go in and do a change.
Okay.
Or if you sell your company, obviously you won't be a beneficial owner anymore. So you have to change it. So anytime, you only have to do a new filing or an updated filing if there's a change. It's not like the Secretary of State where you have to do it every single year.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It's kind of between an EIN, which stays the same forever, and a Secretary of State. Yeah, but do it, okay? Don't not. Please go do it.
All right. Topic number 2.
Okay. Taxes, right? Everyone's favorite. We have to get ready for taxes.
Get ready for tax season.
And I think that so many people, they get all their paperwork from their bookkeeper or their accountant or both in January, February, and they don't think to themselves, and then it's like, oh no, what do I do? But we really need to be looking at it right now. And right now, like literally mid-December is the perfect time because you already know what money you're going to collect. You already know what bills you're going to have. You already kind of know what's happening for the end of the year. So if you need to make some quick tax strategy decisions, you still have time, because the minute December 31st hits, a lot of your options go out the window. So This is the best time to do that.
And you're talking tax strategy for reducing your tax liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like talking about, if you need to make some investments, if you need to, start a self-employed IRA, self-employed 401k, dump as much money as you can in there.
If you need to go buy some equipment, or you need to invest in something that's going to give you a Schedule 179 deduction, stuff like that.
So yeah, I mean, definitely now is the time to start talking to your CPA and, hey, let's take a look. What do I need to do here to kind of reduce this tax liability if I can? And figure out if there's some money that you have that you can place somewhere that's going to either grow for you or at least reduce your tax liability for the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still time. Yeah, there's still time to do it. And so now is a good time, because I see so many people that we're talking like, February, they're like, oh my gosh, I made how much, what? And then by then there is still a couple things you can do in terms of investment strategies with like SEPs and things like that sometimes you can backdate. But generally speaking, most of your options are then closed to you. And so it's just a really good time to think proactively about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then again on taxes is your 1099s. Okay. So we're talking here to blue collar business owners, contractors, tradespeople. You guys have subcontractors, right?
Everyone.
Yeah, right. You don't do everything yourself. Let's be real. So that means you need to have W-9s for all those people, because if you paid them over $600, you have to give them a 1099 by January 31st. It's the same deadline as a W-2. And here's the thing. If you do not send those 1099s like you're supposed to, you will face fines when you send them late, or you will not be able to take that as a tax deduction on your taxes. So basically, you will pay income tax on the money you paid those people. That doesn't sound fun to me. Right? Does that sound fun to you?
Definitely something you want to take care of right now. I mean, not to mention, this is a great time of year to do everything, because most of the trades slow down in December.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them. Obviously your HVAC people get busy as it gets colder, but
yeah,
a lot of the industries do have a slowdown period in December. A lot of industries in general around the holidays, unless you're in retail, people do take the end of the year to kind of slow down and just kind of enjoy time during the holidays. So
yeah,
now is a good time to start. Okay, you've got some downtime, focus on all this stuff. Sorry to take away your downtime, but
yeah, but it'll be worth it.
For.
It'll be worth it in the end. And this is a good time to also put into practice getting your W-9 up front. Get a W-9 before you ever issue a check to someone, because the minute you hit that $600 mark, you are legally required to give them a 1099. And if you use QuickBooks, it's actually pretty cool, because they have a setting where you can just go into your vendors and it'll give you a list of everything you paid, every single vendor. And they have a setup where they will help you do the W-9s. They'll help you. They can email W-9s and then it imports it directly, and then they can help you do the 1099s. It's very inexpensive, and it's already integrated with your current books, so you don't have to transfer a ton of information. It's my favorite option. There's a ton of other ones out there, but I just think it's the simplest, especially if you're already using QuickBooks.
Well, yeah, and this is when best practices come into play, right? If you do this up front, it's easy. You've already started tracking it. You're good. If you don't, and say it's a subcontractor you only used a couple times at the beginning of the year, then you're having to try and track this person down so that you can get their information, so that you can then issue them a 1099. And that's not always easy to do. So best practices can start now for 2025. If you haven't done it this year, it's all right. It's going to be more of a pain in the butt to kind of track this stuff, but you can still do it right now. You still have time to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward, you can have, processes in place to, hey, subcontractor, I need you to fill this out for me. Just get it going.
Yeah. And, kind of on that topic of subcontractors, you should have a subcontractor packet. You should really have a contract with them that outlines both sides of the terms. You should get their certificates of insurance, especially workman's comp or their waiver, but also their GL, because technically if they don't have it, then you're responsible for it. And you also will have to have those in your audits for your insurance. So these are things that you need to have every single year for every single subcontractor, or you will end up having to pay more money. I know it feels like a lot of paperwork and it feels like a big pain in the butt, but just think of it as dollars. Think of it as dollars out the door, and then it will seem like less of a pain in the butt, because you don't want to have to, pay for their insurance. That sucks.
Pay for their taxes.
Or pay for their taxes. That sucks too. That's terrible. So just set it up ahead of time. This is why so much we talk on this podcast about being proactive, right? How can we be proactive instead of reactive? Because if you're in the middle of your yearly insurance audit and all of a sudden you're trying to get COIs from everyone and they don't care, they're like, whatever, not my chair. And, you're trying to get that because you're facing a huge bill. It's a lot harder than if you just get it from the get and have it for every single person in a file.
Yep. So, these are some of the things that you can start doing. Was there any other things that we needed to cover for end of year planning? Other than just these very specific things, obviously planning for 2025 in general.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other thing is you should plan for next year. So many people start planning for the year they're in, and you really need to do it beforehand, right? We have to think proactively. How do we plan for tomorrow instead of plan for yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to kick off 2025, great. You should have started planning in quarter 4 of 2024. But if you haven't yet, take the time now. I mean, there's still a few weeks left in this year to really dig in and make plans. Make plans for your growth. Make plans for your business strategy for next year. Do that on your own with any other partnerships you have, or bring somebody in to help you strategize. Your next year. If you want to see that growth year over year, you really have to start planning ahead of time instead of just reacting to whatever's happening in the moment.
Yeah, like for every single one of my one-on-one clients, we already have draft 2025 projections completed, and we are finishing up our 2025 projections based upon different things we're changing or investments we're making, so that we can have finalized projections by December 31st. So literally when it's Jan 1, we're going projection versus actual, and we have that set, and we have it set for the whole year. And obviously we're going to adjust month over month as stuff changes, but we know where we're going. So really decide and know where you're going. And if you need help with that, we're here to help and reach out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the things that I think, that those 3 very specific ones, but then the kicker of, plan for next year, get it done now. It'll make you feel so much better, and like you really have clarity of your actions.
It is good to get past that holiday season, and then you're like, all right, let's dig into 2025 and not just sit there and be like, all right, what do we need to do? If you already have that plan in place, it feels so much better that you can hit those holidays, you can still enjoy them. You can then say, all right, it's time to get back to work, and you already have written down. You already have a plan in place. You know exactly what you're doing and how to kick it into gear. So you're hitting the year starting off right.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.